Hello, wonderful people, and welcome back to Coffee Over Apples. My name's Steph, and today I'm here with a speed drawing video for the review of Becoming by Michelle Obama.
It could change the world. On we go.
So, I read this book as part of my TBR game challenge, and I'm really happy that this book came up. It was a really nice refresher compared to a lot of other books that I've been reading, because I don't read memoirs very often, but I have to say that this memoir was fantastic for many different reasons. If you've never read a memoir before, I might suggest picking this up as your first one. The language was very descriptive, and I've never been to Chicago, but I really enjoyed the way that she describes it. We can feel like we're there in her apartment with her family. It really made us feel like we were on the journey with her as she talked about her education and growing up in Chicago throughout gentrification, and finding her way as a African American woman in a society that is dealing with so many different social issues, and then turning into this pillar that represents progress and that represents all of these positive things that she attempted to embody, and what her path was, finding herself along with trying to be that leader in her own community that she always wanted to be. One of the first things I want to talk about is that in this bookmark, I decided to draw a girl reading. Michelle Obama's focus throughout being a first lady for 8 years was really on children and the welfare of children. She mentions a lot in this book about visiting different communities around the world in which girls just don't have opportunities to get an education because of societal values which don't place importance upon female education. And it's just so sad, and I appreciate how much she fought for that, and being the mother of 2 young girls, realizing from her own experiences in college and school that there are still leaps and bounds that need to be made in order to have the full progress that we need to make sure that our girls are getting the opportunities that they deserve, especially with education, because education is the key to unlocking their own paths and their own dreams and goals and careers. So I think that one of my favorite moments of this book was when she was visiting a school. Now, I don't remember if it was exactly in Chicago, in a certain part of Chicago or in another place, but she visited a school that had a very large population of students that were socially and economically disadvantaged in comparison to their counterparts in other parts of the states. How the students were talking about how they know that if it's a sunny day outside, that is something to be scared of and to not go outside, because that's when the gangs are most active and they have to be more aware of their surroundings. And so by not having the safety of being able to venture outside their own homes on a beautiful day for fear of having to get riled up within whatever negativity is happening within their neighborhood, that limits those children's experience and being able to grow and just being able to live normal lives, because these are things that no child should have to worry about. I feel like this is something that is swept under the rug far too often. As a teacher myself, working in a socially economically challenged community, we see a lot of families that are just, struggling to put bread on the table, and so their energy is more focused on how are we going to get by until tomorrow, and not thinking about culture and museums and exposure and traveling and things like that, because it's not at their means, because there's not enough attention or spotlight on this differences within communities, all within our same country, but media really focuses on the beautiful sides of, I guess, life in America or suburban communities where things are beautiful and there's flower pots on every windowsill, and that's just not the reality. So I appreciate that she spent quite a bit of time talking about her traveling experiences throughout the world and visiting these children and having real conversations about how there's not enough change done yet. Yes, there has been progress, but the progress will not stop even after she has completed her term as First Lady. That, you know, as a nation, we still have much more work to do, and that it takes a village to raise a child is very, very true. So I decided it would be a very nice thing to do a drawing of a young girl reading and kind of show her hair, maybe just showing the expansion of her own imagination with everything that's happening around her as she reads. Also, Michelle talked a lot in this book about marriage and how even though she had zero interest in going into politics, that she really wanted to make sure that her daughters were always raised by her. She was really weary of bringing in any outside help, to bringing in any nannies or bringing anyone to cook for her daughters, because she understands the importance of family and making time for family. And so I thought it was really nice and refreshing to see someone talk about how goals and different factors within life can have challenges or create challenges within a marriage, and this is completely normal. No marriage is perfect and arguments will happen, and that is actually a healthy thing to have these differencing opinions, as long as you agree that you are working towards the same goal with your partner and that you understand that certain sacrifices can be made, but you both have a bigger picture in mind, that you are both working towards the same thing and supporting each other. I thought it was really healthy that she showed how she supported Barack in his endeavors, but how she also spoke to him about supporting her own endeavors as well. They both always made time for their girls no matter what, and even as parents, you know, you have to figure out your parenting style as you go along. That was something that it's difficult in and of itself, but also as a public figure, putting limitations and on their children's exposure within the media, but also knowing that the internet can be a very scary place, and that, you know, the internet can be very unforgiving. So being able to express yourself clearly and concisely and set those boundaries as a parent in a spotlight can be extremely difficult, as I can only imagine. So she was very strong-willed in the way that she expressed herself, and rightly so, because she understood that her daughters can easily get swept up in all of these politics and social media madness. She wanted to make sure that her daughter still had the humble upbringing and drive that her parents had instilled in her. So I thought that that was really sweet to see, and also the different aspects of their marriage that they worked hard together for. Being able to enjoy a marriage is something that everyone who's in a marriage works for and doesn't come easily. One of my favorite quotes from this book that I want to share with you is from the beginning of the book, in which she's talking about her aunt that she tends to get into disagreements with, or that she just didn't understand. It says, "Even if we didn't know the context, we were instructed to remember that context existed. Everyone on earth, they tell us, was carrying around an unseen history, and that alone deserved some tolerance." I think that this sentence is extremely relevant to our experiences on social media today, because when we send a tweet, or we read a tweet, or we see a post, or we even read a news article that's quoting something, we're getting a small piece of something that's much larger. I feel like we need to understand that we are not all the same in our experiences, and that we should be able to have open dialogue before jumping to conclusions. Just deciding that, you know what, this person is no longer worth talking to because their opinion is different from mine. We need to be able to communicate with each other and thoroughly work out our differences, because we technically all want the same thing. We all want community and we all want communication. Even if our values are different, that is fine. They should still be respected. However, we can't grow to be able to respect each other's differences if we're not willing to have that conversation and then just assume by some small piece of information that was provided that we are able to judge that person's entire character from one clip of their being or a small moment in which we were given access to peek into that person's thoughts. So I think that this is a saying that I'm going to be using very frequently in my teachings, being able to diffuse situations and help us all kind of understand that we all come from different backgrounds, and that's what makes life and people and friendships so special, is that we are not all exactly the same. We all have different values to bring to the table. A good portion of the book is spent talking about Michelle's experiences dealing with social media and on the campaign trail. And a quote from the story in which she talks about bullying comes from when she was talking to her mother about a young boy that was bullying her. The quote goes, "That boy was just scared and angry about things that had nothing to do with you," my mother told me later in our kitchen as she stirred dinner on the stove. She shook her head as if to suggest she knew more than she was willing to share. He's dealing with a whole lot of problems of his own. It also goes on to say that bullies are scared people hiding inside scary people, and that could not be more truth than anything else here, because when we live in a world where everyone is vying for each other's attention and the average viewer only has 1.2 seconds of attention before they come to decide that something is going to be worth spending time and they scroll on to the next post, it's much easier to get that attention if you're using something that is scandalous. So this is why a lot of things that we see online are extremely controversial or problematic or worded in a way that is meant to get you to click on it. It piques your interest because it's something that is outside of the norm. Being able to navigate that through a world that is becoming more and more full of advertisements and everyone just looking to get the most views and the most amount of attention, I think shows that we really need to focus on keeping the humane aspect of ourselves in our society as we try to navigate the digital age, because it's very easy to throw someone under the bus, but it takes a little bit more effort to actually take time to understand that person and stand up for them and try to communicate. That takes more skill and that takes more time, and time is what everybody is working against because we all want to be able to use our time wisely. So I think that the way that she explained in here how different situations were handled differently depending on who was listening to her audience is something that anyone who is in the social media realm should probably read, because it's very good advice as to how to be diligent in your own research and with those that are around you, and understand the influence that you have in trying to just make sure that you communicate to your audience your exact thoughts, being able to open up a platform for honest dialogue. Okay, you guys, I hope that you really enjoyed this speed drawing. I really enjoyed this bookmark a lot. I think it's really beautiful and I plan on using it very frequently. I will leave some links below to different programs that work towards strengthening women's education and also education in underfunded communities. So please definitely check them out and support any way that you can. If you can't support financially, then just spread the word and maybe suggest different books that can help us all educate each other on how to make the world better. And I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll see you later. Bye.